3 o'clock, folks, so I'm going to take the opportunity to call the Finance Committee to order. And what we're going to do is we're going to jump right into public consultation. So there's an opportunity for members of the public and others to provide comments. So I'm going to welcome any members of the public who feel that they would like to give Council some comments. I don't see too many people in the gallery, but certainly we'll go through the protocol. First call, second call, third and final call. So we're going to move into corporate reports. Yeah, I know, it's a good day. But certainly, Vivian, we always ask you to kind of in detail to go through the report, so if it's okay, I'm going to ask you to go through corporate report F027.
Certainly. I just want to let the Finance Committee know that Suzanne's going to do the presentation on the utilities, so turn it over to Suzanne.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Okay, so we have corporate report F027, and this is for the utilities and self-funded programs. So these programs are all on a user-pay basis following consistent application as we've done in previous years. And by introducing these financial plans at this time, it allows us the opportunity to implement the necessary recommended rate increases for January 1 of 2016. So we'll start with the utility rates, and the residential water program has been in place now for more than 15 years, and we have more than 61,000 customers that are on meters. With that said, we have 68% residential, 57% multifamily, and all of our commercial and industrial properties. So Metro Vancouver is increasing the water rates for 2016 by approximately 1 cent per cubic meter, and this will have an impact of 37 cents a month, or about $4.39 per annum. In addition to that, the city will also need to provide a rate increase of just over 2 cents per cubic meter, and this is to support the operation and maintenance of our own water delivery system. And in addition to that, we also will need to put a rate increase of $1 per billing period for the base rate, and that's to support the maintenance and replacement program of our metering program. So overall, with all the proposed increases between Metro Vancouver and the city's side, we're expecting that the average residential customer will see a $1.30 per month increase in utility rates, or $15.60 per year. And we'll see the average business, who uses approximately 2,000 cubic meters of water per year, see $5.92 per month, or $71 per year. The flat rate will be increased proportionately. The average consumption for non-metered properties is approximately 800 cubic meters per year, and the current rate structure will be applied to that to establish the flat rate. Over the course of the next 4 to 5 years, Metro Vancouver anticipates that the rate increases will increase by 5 to 6% per cubic meter per year. In the sewer utility, the GVS and DD sewer charge will increase by 3.9%, and the city, this is the primary driver of the rate increase this year, so that same rate increase will be applied to our own sewer charges, and so our residential customers will see approximately a 74 cents per month charge increase, or $8.88 per year. Overall, our average residential customers, our non-metered residential customers, will use approximately 640 cubic meters of discharge, and the rate will be calculated appropriately, proportionately so. Metro Vancouver anticipates over the next 4 to 5 years that their rate increases will increase by 3.7 to 4.3% per year for each of the remaining years. For the Drainage and Diking District, in order to support the maintenance and capital costs of this program, we're recommending that a $3 per lot be applied to residential sewer or drainage parcel customers. So overall, this will increase our our drainage parcel tax to $216, or $268 for commercial properties. In solid waste, we saw that the province turned down the bylaw from the Metro Vancouver that's proposing to maintain all commercial and residential waste within the region. As a result of that, without some regulatory controls and the continued higher rate for competitive market waste disposal, Metro Vancouver would see all the commercial haulers exiting the region and create additional pressure on the residential cost of processing. So in response to this, they have introduced a variable rate tipping schedule. That variable rate will start off at up to 1 ton. It will be $133 per ton with a maximum of $112 per load. For disposal of 1 to 9 tons, it will be $112 per ton with a maximum of $720 per load. And over 9 tons, it would be $80 per ton. So this applies to municipalities. They see that the average cost of municipal disposing is around $84 to $111 per ton, and the average being $94. So with this information, Metro Vancouver is proposing to establish the set for municipal and public work disposal to be $100 per ton for 2016. And so with these new rate changes, this new rate structure, in addition to our current solid waste program and along with our multi-material recycling program, we are finding that it's not necessary to make any change to our solid waste, so we'll be maintaining those rates, or recommending that those rates maintain at $283 per year. In our parking program, that covers the fees from the parking program, cover the operating and maintenance costs of the underground facility located in this site. And those fees are recommended to stay the same, which are currently $75 for staff parking in a non-designated spot, or $130 per month for a designated reserve spot. Public parking will remain at $1.50 an hour. In our district energy, we saw the district energy now introduce 2 customers in 2015. One of those customers is a residential tower with 235 units, and the other a commercial tower that has 160,000 square feet of commercial space and 25,000 square feet of retail space. In addition, we anticipate to see 2 more customers come onto the grid next year in 2016. We have a third-party expert panel review to help us oversee the rates, and they have reviewed the long-term financial plan structure and the proposed 2016 rates and have endorsed the rates that are proposed. The current rates proposed are $49.92 per megawatt hour of energy consumed. In addition to that, approximately 2 cents a square meter per day and a 24-cent kilowatt day be applied to our Class 1 and 2 customers respectfully. The rate is structured in such a manner that the average residential tower, those customers will see costs that are comparative with that of electrical, if they were serviced by electrical heat. So they would see comparative costs in those areas. So with that, I'll just, right now, as an overview here, can I get the button? This is the schedule here I've put up is each of the individual rates, the current average single-family rates, as well as the proposed increases in the total overall impact for the rates that have been proposed that I've discussed in this report. And then here, I can just show you how that affects throughout the region. And you can see that Surrey still maintains relatively low utility rates throughout the region. So with that, we have covered the self-funded utilities, the water, sewer, drainage, solid waste, parking, and district energy utilities, and are recommending that Council direct staff to move forward with the financial plans for these utilities.
Thank you for that presentation. So we've got a corporate report on table. If we could have someone move to second, and questions?
So can I just understand what is the total cost increase for an average single home in Surrey, and what is the definition of an average single home in Surrey?
An average single-family home in Surrey has a assessed value of approximately $670,000 per year. And the utility consumed are based on 307 cubic meters per year is what our statistics are showing us that our average metered single-family properties home are consumed. And with 68% of our single-family properties on meter, the significant portion is serving by meter. So the total cost increase in that area is, here I'll put this back up, is $27.48 is the total increase, and that's a 2.4% overall increase.
Okay. So for sewer and water utilities, for the combination of all of them, what is the average single-family home?
$27.48.
For all of it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
That's the total for all the 4 utilities.
Okay, thank you.
And that's it.
Councillor Frank.
Thank you. And that's annually.
That's annually, yes.
Right.
So, Suzanne, if I may, what have those averages been in past years, just for context and just for some clarity?
The average increases, have they been in past years?
Yes.
This year, the increase is just slightly higher in the water area. The increases are consistent in the other areas, but in the water area, it's just a little bit higher because as more people are being more conservative with their water, and we saw water restrictions, people are being conscientious. We still do have the fixed costs that we do need to still allocate, so we need to put a slightly little bit higher. So we put about an extra, of those costs, probably about an extra $5 is higher than this year than in the past.
Thank you. Councillor Hain.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've got a couple questions. One for staff with respect to the MMBC contract, and then my second one is on the parking revenues. So on the MMBC, it's great to see that solid waste collection isn't going to go up this year per household. But I'm wondering if we could get comment on, because now we have a good full year under our belt with MMBC, how our revenues are looking versus what we anticipated those revenues to be from MMBC, and over time, over the next several years, are we anticipating a similar situation where we don't have to increase rates because of the rebates we're getting from MMBC?
Through the chair, if I can just pass this on to Rob Costanza, he's the expert in that area.
Thank you. I didn't want you to come for nothing, Rob.
$4.9 million last year, and the revenues that we'll be bringing in will be approximately $5.6 million. So the money from MMBC will surpass our budgeted amount for recycling waste in 2015. And that will likely continue until such time that our contract terminates, which will come to an end in 2019, unless we decide to engage an additional 3 years. There's a 3-year option. And it really depends on what happens with MMBC at the end of their term. So it just happens to coincide. Our contract with MMBC will also terminate in 2019. And should they continue on in a similar format, we will continue generating revenue until such time that we have a new contract. So the new contract with waste collection could be higher, could be the same. It's hard to know at this point in time. Depending on how effectively waste collection by MMBC, because that is an option. If you recall, we could relinquish our collection to MMBC. City of Vancouver has just made that decision, and should we decide to do the same, then we won't be receiving monies from MMBC, but they will be carrying out the collection at no cost to our taxpayers.
So, just follow up, Mr. Chair. So you could characterize that as being successful so far, certainly.
So far, so good. And in addition, we received a $260,000 surplus this year from MMBC due to the increase in recycling. So there's just a higher amount of recyclable material than what was anticipated.
Okay.
So more people are recycling.
Excellent. Thank you. And my second question was with respect to parking revenues. On page 10 of the corporate report, Appendix 5, just looking at the revenue line items for 2016 through to 2020, 2017, it looks like an awful lot of people are going to park in Surrey, and then they're going to slow down parking in Surrey after that. Could we explain that anomaly in 2017 on the revenue side?
Through the chair, the additional revenue that we're seeing in 2017 is as a result of the Three Civic Plaza coming on board, and we'll be receiving a lump sum payment for them from some parking spaces. So we've got it in the budget because that's the year we're going to have to recognize that revenue in.
I see. So, okay, great. Thank you.
Councillor Woods.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Actually, you put that one graph back up, and so that was part of my
This
question. No, the first one.
Okay.
Okay. The second thing that I just didn't quite get the average value of the house in Surrey that you say is the average. It's 670.
670,000.
670,000. So just to understand, so that I'm clear here, if you have a house, 670,000, that is what you'll be paying in taxes.
Through the chair, yes, that's true. However, these rates are really just based on single family. So because it's a consumption-based model,
Right.
the assessment value is really not a factor in this instance. So if you have a house that's worth 500,000 and you have 4 people in it, I'm going to say approximately 4 people, these are probably the rates. If you have a house that is 700,000 and you still have those, or 800,000, $1 million, you still have those same 4 people in it, you're going to see the same rates. Because it's based on how much you consume as opposed to your assessed value of your property.
Okay. Can I have a follow-up question? Even though we have metering, water metering.
Yes, these rates are specifically for customers that are on meters.
Okay, so this is the average rate.
Yes.
Right. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to add a bit more context maybe on the MMBC question that was a bit earlier from Councillor Hain, because some of the new councillors may not recall that the city a few years ago when MMBC came on board had to do a choice to either have them do our recycling collection or pay us for the tonnage of recycling that we collect and deliver to them. And that was a question that we had to ponder and decide on. And Surrey, with the very efficient collection system, we thought very strongly that it would be in our benefit to collect the recyclables and get paid by MMBC. And that has proven the case. And basically, we outstrip our expenses by the payments to MMBC does to us. So in other words, that's why it's putting a negative pressure on the rates and why we can keep the rates the same way. So chances are that in the future, that likely will continue, although we will fully reassess it at the time we need a new contract. But for now, MMBC has been very positive for the City of Surrey, for sure. Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just following up on that, Mr. City Manager, and perhaps this question Mr. Costanzo may have an answer for, have we ever gone beyond that 3% contamination that material management plan was set up for fining us?
Yes, we have. We're receiving reports on a continuous basis. They've taken a soft approach and will be for likely the next year, according to MNBC, where they're not giving out fines based on the contamination threshold. But in our case, on average, we're below the threshold, but there are certain areas where the contamination will spike in certain routes. And on that basis, we communicate with the residents to bring back that contamination level. And we've been working cooperatively, and so they've been viewing our program favorably. So long as we're doing so accordingly in terms of bringing down that contamination, we're fine. The other issue was with respect to glass contamination. And in our case, our glass contamination has typically been less than 1%, and 3% is the threshold for glass as well. So we've been doing well in that regard.
Okay, so we're not going to change the glass pickup based on that low-level contamination.
We are advising residents, as per MMBC requirement, not to place glass material into the blue box. Residents certain residents continue to do so, but we are below the threshold. So as long as we're below that threshold, we're fine.
Do you know how we fare? One more question, Mr. Chair, if I may. Do you know how we fare based on other communities, since this is sort of the first year of operation of this material collection?
With respect to glass, with respect to contamination in general, we're doing very well. We are one of the few municipalities that have a single-stream recycling program. And in general, contamination levels at the onset were approximately 7 or 8%, and they've dropped down to just below 5% across the region. And so the city's contamination levels have typically been fairly low with single-family or single-stream recycling. And that's one of the other reasons why our glass contamination is so low. Simply because the way the material is handled, our levels are typically lower than most municipalities across the region.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do have one question just in terms of the drainage, diking, and flooding. I know that in past years we were quite aggressive in terms of providing some provisions, just given the weather pattern and how the seasons have changed over the last number of years. Just want to ensure that the $3 provision that we have in the current year is appropriate, and in fact, we're comfortable with those figures.
Through the chair, yes, at this time we are. We'll be bringing forward, though, a report shortly on climate adaptation, which will be discussing the long-term impact of climate change on our diking system, both in the Colebrook Mud Bay area and also in the Crescent Beach area and Bridgeview.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, I believe we've got a first and seconder on this. Is that correct? So it would be appropriate to call the question, given that there's no... Did you have a question, Councillor Bird?
No, I was going to say yes.
Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Against? Carried unanimously. So if we could move into Corporate Report F028, the community grants for 2016. And Suzanne, please.
Okay, so the community grant program in 2015, I just want to highlight in 2015 the grants that Council has provided. Council has approved community charter permissive property tax exemptions, community enhancement grants, the community grants program, council initiative funds, cultural grants program, facade enhancement grants, community event policing, public leisure access, sport tourism grants, and in total, Council has provided the community with over $4.4 million in financial support through our various granting programs. So for 2016, we did place advertisements in the local paper, and we posted on the city's website for our community grant program. And the Grant Evaluation Committee, I just want to acknowledge here, Yalda Sadin from Parks, Recreation and Culture, Marlise McCarger from Planning, Susan Ho from Legislative Services, Kaljit Graywal from Finance, and myself. We're all part of the evaluation process. We've received 78 grants. Those grants were categorized into leases and property taxes, business tourism, community, crime prevention, and one time. In the leases and property taxes, this is for city-owned lands where space is provided to nonprofit organizations, and the grants are for the associated lease payments. Or in the case of the permissive property tax exemption, we have some funds available for nonprofits who do not meet the submission deadline, but however, they will still qualify for a permissive exemption in the next year. So these are really just a bridging grant to help them until they meet the application program. In the ongoing business and tourism category, these programs support the Cloverdale District and Commerce, the Surrey Board of Trade, the South Surrey Chamber of Commerce, and the Surrey Tourism and Convention Association. And as you all know, the Board of Trade and the two chambers play a really important role in attracting business to our community and supporting business, and the Surrey Tourism and Convention Association supports the marketing and promotion for our community. In the ongoing community category, the organizations that are supported through this are the Lower Fraser Valley Exhibition Association, the Arts Council of Surrey, Community Enhancement Partnership Program, and the Honey Hooser Scholarship Fund. The ongoing crime prevention category, these organizations support the city's crime reduction strategy, and they include the Surrey Crime Prevention Society, Crime Stoppers, and the Lookout Emergency Aid Society. So for the one-time grants, they're categorized as community promotion, health and social, and culture and recreation. And the evaluation criteria for these grants is attached to this report as Appendix 5, and this is the evaluation criteria that the Grants Committee did use to go through and review them. So in the attached appendices 1, 2, and 3, in each of the areas you'll find the proposed recommended ongoing grants, the one-time grants, and those grants that were not recommended, along with some appropriate comments associated with those. So should the Finance Committee accept the Grant Evaluation Committee's recommendation, we would find unallocated funds, and so these are funds that still are available for distribution throughout 2016. In the special recognition area, we would have still $5,000. For property taxes, we would have $2,800. For high school dry grads, now these dry grads receive $250 for each school that has a dry grad event. We still have $3,000. This organization contacts us throughout the years, and we often send them letters reminding them, because they change over every year with all new people. It's a little bit hard for them. And then in the one-time grants area, we will have $13,250 available for distribution throughout the year. So that's the ongoing community grants.
Excellent. Thank you so much. You always do a great job, Suzanne. Thank you.
Thank you.
Should we put this on the table first, if you could move it?
Sure.
You can have a seconder. And Councillor Villeneuve.
So I just noticed the Newton Senior Centre for the upgrade for the billiard tables, etc. Do we ask our senior centres and groups to apply for grants for upgrades for equipment in our facilities? That's the first time I've noticed that.
The Newton Senior Centre, through the chair, the Newton Senior Centre has received grants in the past for improvements in the air in their areas, and often the city so for some of the building furnishings, we've provided all of the maintenance, and in other instances there's been a shared contribution. So it's not unusual. It's not the first time we've had the grants through here.
Okay, so do they have a society?
Yes.
Newton Senior Society that runs out of the Newton Centre.
Okay. So they're their own entity.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor LaFranc.
Thank you, Chair. I have a couple of questions. One is about lease in kind. How are those lease in kinds evaluated? How do you come up with the actual amount?
That's a very good question. Realty Services provides us with those amounts, so I would assume that they're using a cost per square foot for the space.
Great. Thank you.
I didn't.
Basically, that's correct. Realty then assess the market rate of the space, and then assesses that and provides that to the group. And it's a very important step in the group realizing the type of commitment the city is doing to them by leasing them the space and then subsequently giving them a grant.
Thank you. I have another question, and that is not actually a question, a comment about the Public Leisure Access Program. I was astonished at the number of grants that we give to low-income folks, and I think it's such an important piece. But 29,390 people got access to the leisure centres, and I just think that's outstanding. I think that Surrey is a leader in that, and I can't help but think that so many families wouldn't have access without these grants. And I think the total is $1.3 million of foregone income. But it's also kids that wouldn't normally get to access it. So I have to congratulate staff and Parks for this program. It's amazing.
Excellent comments. Thank you. Seeing no other questions, I will call the question. All in favor? Against? Carried. So if I could have someone move adjournment, please. Seconder. Discussion. All in favor? Against? Carried.